Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into the complex story of palm oil in Indonesia. It's a product that's in almost everything we use, but it comes with a truly staggering hidden cost.
So, think about this for a second. What are the cosmetics you might have used this morning? The detergent that cleans your clothes, and even some of the biofuels we're told are green all have in common.
You got it, it's palm oil. We're talking about an ingredient so unbelievably efficient, so versatile, that it's become a building block of our modern world. But that same efficiency, it's literally changing the face of our planet.
Okay, so let's dive right into what we're calling the palm oil paradox. And to really get it, we've got to start by looking at the incredible promise of this super crop.
So why is palm oil in absolutely everything? Honestly, it just boils down to economics. It's the most popular vegetable oil on the planet for one simple reason. It is fantastically efficient to grow, which means it's super cheap for companies to buy and for us to use.
And this chart right here really puts that efficiency into perspective. Just look at these numbers. Oil palms give us 3.8 tons of oil for every single hectare planted. I mean, that absolutely dwarfs soybean oil at just half a ton and rapeseed at 0.8. It's not even in the same league.
And when you ask, who's producing all this oil? Well, one country stands way above the rest: Indonesia. Think about this. Indonesia supplies roughly half of the entire planet's palm oil. Half.
And that global dominance, it's a massive economic engine for the country. The palm oil industry directly employs 7.5 million people. For a huge part of the population, this isn't just an industry, it's their livelihood.
So you've got this picture of an economic miracle, right? It's efficient, it's profitable, it creates millions of jobs. But here is where that paradox really starts to kick in. What is the true cost of all this amazing efficiency?
And that brings us to the other side of the coin, because behind that economic promise, there's a massive and often totally unseen ecological price tag.
And wow, this chart tells a huge part of the story. Between 2001 and 2016, what was the single biggest reason for deforestation in Indonesia? You guessed it, oil palm plantations. They're responsible for almost a quarter of all the forest that was lost. And to put that into a scale you can actually imagine, in just over a decade, we're talking about more than 6 million hectares of pristine, ancient forest being wiped out. That's an area larger than the entire country of Croatia. Just gone.
You know, when you tear down a complex rainforest and replace it with rows and rows of a single crop, the effect on wildlife is just catastrophic. Listen to this. These new plantations can only support about 15% of the species that lived in the original forest. You're basically creating a biological desert.
And this isn't some abstract concept. Look at what it means for a real iconic animal like the Sumatran elephant. In Rio Province, which is a hotspot for palm oil, the elephant population has crashed by 84%. We are literally watching entire ecosystems fall apart in real time. And here's the kicker. Even the supposedly green uses of palm oil have a dark side. The promise of biofuel is great, right? A clean, renewable energy to replace fossil fuels. But the reality is a whole different story. When you calculate the massive amount of carbon that's released from clearing the rainforest to plant the palm trees, you create something called a carbon debt. It would take anywhere from 75 to maybe even 600 years for the biofuel to save enough carbon to pay back that initial environmental cost.
So this begs a huge question. If this is all happening, and Indonesia even has policies and international programs to stop it, why isn't it working? Well, the answer, according to experts, lies in something called the governance gap.
So what does that actually mean, policy governance? Well, think of it as the system for how rules get made, how different agencies work together, and, this is the big one, how those rules are actually enforced. And when that system is weak, even the best policies in the world just don't work. And the research points to 4 big failures here. First up, accountability. You've got different government agencies with overlapping powers, but they're not talking to each other. It's confusing. Second, there's no legal certainty. The laws are vague, and nobody's really enforcing them. Third, a lack of participation. The local people who live on the land, they're often completely shut out of the decisions. And finally, no transparency. Different parts of the government are using different data, so no one can get a clear picture of what's really going on. And when you have weak laws and no oversight, you open the door wide open for corruption. And to get a sense of the scale we're talking about, look at this number.
An estimated $7 billion were lost in just 4 years, all due to corruption in the forestry sector.
Okay, here's a perfect real-world example of that broken accountability. You've got one ministry, Environment and Forestry, in charge of the forest land, but a totally different one, the Ministry of Agriculture, is in charge of the palm oil industry. The forestry folks require companies to have long-term plans. The agriculture folks? Nope. This just creates chaos, conflicting rules, and massive loopholes you could drive a truck through.
And what happens when you have these loopholes? This is what happens. Weak governance leads directly to environmental crime. In one famous case, a district official in Riau was actually sent to jail for taking bribes to hand out permits for plantations inside a forest that was supposed to be protected.
So, okay, it sounds pretty bleak, right? With all these deep-rooted problems, what on earth can be done? Is there any kind of path forward? Let's take a look at one of the solutions that people are talking about.
The big idea is to just shift the whole model. Instead of what we're doing now, which is clearing more and more priceless rainforest, the sustainable idea is to only plant new oil palms on land that's already been ruined, like old grasslands. That way, you avoid cutting down any more forests.
It sounds like a perfect solution, doesn't it? A real win-win. But here's the catch. When scientists actually went out and looked for all this suitable, degraded land, they only found about 0.3 million hectares of it. That is a tiny, tiny fraction of what the world is projected to demand. The math just doesn't add up.
And that leaves us right here with this final, really challenging question. We have this product that's woven into the fabric of our global economy. Demand for it is only going up. But the truly sustainable path seems way too small to meet that demand. It forces all of us to ask, can our choices, our consumption, ever really be sustainable when we're faced with these kinds of limits? It's a paradox with no easy answers, and it's one that involves every single one of us.
Kindly subscribe and follow for more motivational content. You may drop your thoughts on the comment section. See you on the next video.